there were 2 or 3 of us asking for initiation, so we each wrote him a personal letter. And I remember that distinctly too, because in the letter I wrote, a few things, how it was going for me and my commitment to Krishna consciousness. But I remember putting in there that I was becoming very happy following this process. So when I got the letter back from Prabhupada to accept me as a disciple, I really noted how that's what he focused on. That, I'm so glad that you're becoming happy. And, at that time and even later I've thought about that and how, in a way, that really characterizes to me a lot of what Prabhupada felt towards not just his disciples, but in the way people of the world, that he really wanted everyone to become happy. And he was teaching us about Krishna consciousness because from his enlightened perspective, he could see that we wouldn't become happy through any other means than realizing our constitutional position. So as we started to feel that and experience that even in a very limited way, he immediately picked up on it and encouraged that. And I remember that quite distinctly too from that initial letter. And the first time he actually communicated with me, and said, my dear Bhutatma, which was, I got the name at that time too, of course.
He rang the bell, and then he called me in, and I rushed in and said, "Yes, Srila Prabhupada." By the way, that was a new expression at that point, even in '68. Before, it was only Swamiji, only months before. "Yes, Srila Prabhupada." And he looks at me, he goes, "First of all, you have forgotten to pay your obeisances." So I go like this, because I had rushed in, right out of the sleeping bag, hit the floor, and then I hear this chuckling going on. Srila Prabhupada's kind of low chuckle. And he says, that's all right. It's all just for practice." So then he called me over. He said, "Come on, sit down." He said, "Why have you called me here to Santa Fe, and then you tell me to go to Los Angeles?" Now, of course, I had nothing to do with this. I was barely 18, in the movement for 2 months. And Srila Prabhupada's, so I figured out later he just kind of wanted to talk to me, loosen me up a little bit. But at the time I was kind of startled. "So why have you called me here to Santa Fe, and then you tell me to go?" So I said, "Well, Srila Prabhupada, Govindadasi," and that's as far as I got. Here I was a brahmachari, and he was going to train me. "Govindadasi, never listen to a woman." It's as far as I got. Now, he loved Srila Govindadasi. Govindadasi would go wherever he went, or he would send her in advance to check things out. He trusted her very much. She and her husband did illustrations for books and so forth. But kind of in a tease, he says, "Never listen to a woman." Then he leans back, looks at me again and said, "So what did she say?" So I said, "Well, Srila Prabhupada, she said that, this is a very elevated place, Santa Fe, New Mexico. It's on the Continental Divide." He looks at me and says, "You're an intelligent boy." I don't know why, just because I mentioned Continental Divide. "And we're up in the, upper atmosphere here. The air is thin, and you're a heart patient. And, oh, so you think I will come here and die?" He opens up his eyes really wide. So now I'm really, I don't know what to say, Just says, "Oh, so many people are living here? I cannot come?" So that conversation, then we chanted japa. And actually before he did that, he sang, or kind of recited the samsara prayers. We're just the two of us there. And he sat and he was just, as Srila Prabhupada would often do, rub his knee as he sat. And samsara dava nalalita loka, he just sang it, sang it and recited it without kartals or mridanga or anything. And then we chanted japa.
I was in Kanpur distributing Back to Godhead magazines. This was 77. So there was Ram Leela festival going on. So the Bullock Cart party wanted to make use of this crowd. So myself and Ravidas from England, so we were going around the Ramlila grounds and we wanted to take a little rest. So we came under a little building and I saw the signboard there. It had a Bengali signboard and English. There was Mr. Chatterjee and he was the marriage registration officer of the town. So I told Ravidas that, well, this is Bengali here, so let's go and try to give him a magazine. So we went up the staircase, was third floor of that building. Very narrow staircase, and we walk inside this Paka Bengali looking house, old paintings hanging and big bookshelf and easy chair, and Miss Chatterjee was sitting there. So I went up to him, greeted him, and I gave him one Back to Godhead magazine. So he looked at the Back to Godhead, then he said, that do you know that when Prabhupada was distributing his Back to Godhead magazines, he stayed in this place? So I said, oh really, that's interesting. So he shows us around the house. So this is where he used to sit, this is where he used to cook, and then there is a line on the top, cloth line. He said, we reserved this line for him. And he said that we never used it. Only his clothes will be drying there. Then we came down, we sat down in his study. So then he brought me this book, Bhagavatam, signed by Prabhupada, the old copy, and some translations underlined about the personal form of the Lord. So then he told that that he was a follower of Arya Samaj. And Arya Samaj people, they don't have deities. And they do some yajnas and they stick to some Rig Vedic verses and all. So Prabhupada used to make joke on him. He said that Prabhupada used to say that I know what you Arya Samajis do. When you see a Vishnu temple, you look both sides, and if nobody is looking at you, then you pay obeisances. And then you say, oh, I'm sorry for offending you. And he said, then he said that when he first brought Prabhupada into his quarters, he was telling him that I have been following Arya Samaj, but within home I was still being old Vedic style. I have been worshipping the 5 Murtis, Shiva, Ganesh, like that. Then he said, but I never get any feeling, neither from the Arya Samaj activities nor from this Vedic life. So Prabhupada spoke to him. He said that day Prabhupada spoke to him for over 1 hour on the personal and impersonal features of the Lord. Then later on when Prabhupada came after printing the book, he underlined this translation and gave it to him. Then he said, because you think the Lord is impersonal, this is why you are not getting any experience. And while saying this man was totally moved. Then he said that from that time, after Swami Maharaj left, he didn't come back to Kanpur anymore. Then he said, but then I became a personalist. And then he showed his study. There was the Gaunita and Radhakrishna deities. Then he said that what our grandfather used to do, I came back in that line. Then now I am worshipping Radha and Krishna. Then he said, Prabhupada used to take my daughter on his lap and feed her the tomato rice cooked by him. Then he said that luckily she is here with her children for holidays. And then he called her. And this lady came. And she said that, Prabhupada said that you should just take prasad. Don't worry about anything else that your father says. Because she used to get preached that God has no form and don't worship the deity and things like that. So she remembered that just take prasad, you will become okay. Then she said, I was a personalist all the time.